This video is about how to do the right thing in life. There are 4 ways to help determine that you are making the right decision for your life. To find out more, please stay tuned to this video. Welcome to the SCG Show, the home of education entertainment, and please do me a favor, if you really enjoyed this video, smash that like button. I would really appreciate it. Once upon a time, there was a single father whose daughter dated a toxic boyfriend. The boyfriend was wrong for her, would regularly get in trouble with the law, had no prospects, created nothing but drama. The father had no idea how to help guide his daughter, who was clearly suffering. He asked help from others, they had no idea what to say, contemplated the scenarios in his mind, could not think what to do, and he often spoke to his daughter but would stick up for her toxic partner. Sadly, the single father concluded, if I tell my daughter to split up from him, she'll hold it against me and blame me for the relationship failing. I'll be the bad guy. So he kept quiet and decided to not get involved. Whenever he would hear his daughter suffering from abuse and more, he would go to sleep crying at the thought of it. But he stuck to his guns. Again, if I tell my daughter to split, I will be the bad guy. Long story short, the toxic boyfriend got arrested and was put in prison for 12 years. His daughter begrudgingly broke up with her now imprisoned boyfriend and was an emotional wreck. She turned to her dad and asked, "Why didn't you tell me to break up with him?" The father shrugged his shoulders and said, "I thought I was doing the right thing." The right thing was to risk hurting his daughter in the short term to save her in the long run. How often do we make such reckless mistakes? Or are we afraid to hurt people's feelings? Or because we don't want to be blamed if things don't go to plan? Or how often do we get looked upon as being the bad guy? In my opinion, too often. Fact is based on situation and circumstances. Only you and you alone know what the right thing to do is in your life and circumstance. So I will hopefully generalize this the best I can and guide you to making better and the right decisions in your life. You know you're doing the right thing in life when you take a calculated risk. And a calculated risk is a hazard or chance of failure whose degree of probability has been reckoned or estimated before some undertaking is entered upon. Let's go back to the example of the single father. He never calculated the risk in his mind of trying to guide his daughter from ending up with a person who was toxic for her. Instead, he focused on the negative and focused on his own self-interest. All he cared about was how he was going to be seen by others and how his daughter would blame him for the failure of the relationship. Rather than focusing on the most important aspect, his daughter dating a dangerous and toxic person, and the fact she was unhappy. If he stopped focusing on his own image and rather looked at the bigger picture, maybe he would have seen that there was no future there. And on top of that, his daughter was utterly miserable and suffering abuse. He did not want to be the bad guy and therefore did nothing, but he also got lucky that the guy got into prison and is out of their lives. Had that not happened, things would have gotten worse. I said this previously, if you want sometimes to do the right thing, it means you probably need to be the bad guy. However, if you're making an uninformed, uneducated decision, you're only going to burn yourself and make matters worse. I personally broke up with an ex-narcissist a few years back, and I took the calculated risk. Evaluating that I was miserable, we were fighting all the time, they were narcissistic, and difficult people to be around. I thought what my future would look like marrying and settling down with a person like that, and it looked bleak. So yes, in the short term, I was the bad guy, breaking up, having to be alone and single, ultimately having to start to date again. And even some people told me, go back to her, you're miserable. But I can safely say that that calculated risk has paid off dividends over time. Take a calculated risk. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you are enjoying this video. This may be odd, but another way to know you're doing the right thing is when it hurts but feels good, strangely. It's a balance. Think of the parent that correctly disciplines their child. It's the same thing. A mother I know has the sweetest little girl, but I saw her once when she was out of control, throwing a massive tantrum, shouting, screaming at the top of her lungs. The mum shouted at the kid and ordered her to sit on the stairs, go to the naughty step. The little girl complied, and there she was, crying on the step, rubbing her eyes, with floods of tears pouring out. My heart ached. I felt bad for the little girl. I'd be so soft as a parent. I asked the mother, how do you do that? How do you discipline without feeling a bit guilty? And she said, oh God, it hurts. But it feels good because I know my daughter, when she grows up, will be a better person. She was right, as that little toddler grew into a very bright, sweet, well-behaved and wonderful girl. When it hurts, but it feels good. It's like building muscle when you go to the gym and lift those weights. You're never going to see any gains without a bit of pain. No pain, no gain. When I broke up with that ex-narcissist, it was no easy feat, despite it logically being the right thing to do. It was still a romantic relationship ending, a breakup with no closure, and having to adapt to being single after many years dating. I remember crying my eyes out after the relationship ended, but deep in the pit of my gut feeling, you've done the right thing. Despite my pain, I felt better, because the relationship with a toxic person never changes. I sit here recording this almost 2 years later, proud to have done the right thing. So use me as your inspiration to hopefully do the same. And remember, if it hurts but feels good, it is the right thing to do. Another sign you're doing the right thing is when there's no other way. You're out of options. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. You're at the end of your tether. You've given up. You've tried talking it through, reasoning. You've tried everything. When I was a gambling addict for many years, this is a great example of this. I suffered in silence for years. I even made friends gambling. When I finally became sober, I made a promise and said, I cannot carry on living like this. Enough is enough. All my online casino accounts, etc. were frozen, cancelled. I banned myself from every betting shop and physical casinos I used to go to. It was over and has been ever since. But what also needed to go were the friends who were addicts like me. I asked them to meet up outside of gambling. None of them did. All they wanted to do was surround themselves with other addicts and keep gambling. I remember one of those friends calling me up to have a moan at me. There is no way you're going to be sober, SCG, he said. You gotta come back to gambling. No, I don't, I replied. There's no other way, I said. It's over. There was no other way. If it meant losing friends, so be it. If it meant having more free time socially and being alone, fine. If it meant crying and being hurt all the time at the money that I'd wasted, I get it. Because what is the alternative? To carry on gambling? To carry on losing money? To carry on suffering? To carry on abusing myself the way that I was and involved in this toxic, horrible addiction? Never, ever again. Remember, when there's no other way, it is the right decision. The final sign you know you're doing the right thing is because you believe in a better future for yourself, aka a better tomorrow. Take me, for example, when I gave up my addiction to gambling. Gambling made my life miserable. It was making me stressed out. I was losing too much money. My future looked bleak, dark, miserable as a gambling addict. But now 2 years sober, my future is much brighter, and I thank my former self for having the courage, resilience and strength in making that tough but correct decision. The same goes with walking away from that toxic relationship. Again, it was making my life utterly miserable. My career and work suffered because of it. My future looked dark, worrying, bleak, thinking about settling down with a toxic person. And once again, now, 2 years out of that spiraling hell, which was a toxic relationship, I thank my former self again for the courage and strength in making that tough but correct decision. So why not make the sacrifice today, which not a lot of people do, for your better tomorrow? Plan for a better future by doing that hard but correct / right thing, right decision today. Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, here's some more content you might be interested in.